Well, hi, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to our second edition of Breaking News for this Wednesday, the 14th day of August, 2024. And as always, we have some important stories that have come across the wire the last couple of hours. First and foremost, ahead of tomorrow's unveiling of Biden's take it or leave it plan for Israel and Hamas, Netanyahu makes it clear that the Israeli Defense Force must control the Philadelphi Corridor. Let's see what Joe says. All right, the New York Post has a great opinion piece. Namely, Israel should finish off Hamas and resist the Biden-Harris demands for concessions to terrorists. I think that's a fabulous idea. Our next headline will be Iran is advancing research on nuclear bomb detonators, a nuke expert tells the Jerusalem Post. Now, it's one thing to enrich uranium to weapons grade. One of the other steps is, of course, the nuclear bomb detonators, and evidently they've been working on those too, so we'll talk about that. And of course, right on cue, the World Health Organization declares monkeypox or Mpox now an outbreak in Africa. The outbreak is now a global health emergency. And our last headline, well, you won't believe what a 61-year-old British man is going to jail for 18 months for saying. This is really unbelievable. All right, let's get to the headlines. Number one, Netanyahu firm on the IDF control of Philadelphi Corridor ahead of Doha talks. Netanyahu insists that the only way to prevent weapons smuggling that would allow Hamas to rearm is for the IDF to be physically present at the Philadelphi corridor. Prime Minister Netanyahu stood firm on his principal point that the IDF must maintain a presence in this critical Philadelphia corridor ahead of a fateful round of hostage talk tomorrow in Doha, Qatar. Prime Minister Netanyahu firmly stands by the principle that the IDF will physically remain in the Philadelphi corridor. That's an Israeli official, what he said today. Now, the official spoke up amid continued reports that the IDF believes Israel could withdraw from the Philadelphi corridor, which is a buffer zone between Egypt and Gaza, relying on other means to prevent weapons smuggling there. And Netanyahu says, no, we have to have a physical presence there. Lieutenant Chief of Staff General Herzi Halevi on Wednesday said the IDF was prepared for any decision that the political echelon would make about the Philadelphia corridor, even if the political echelon wants the IDF to remain and hold on to the corridor indefinitely, it has the capability to do so. Now, let's remember, the Philadelphia corridor is an 8.5-mile corridor that borders Egypt and Gaza, the Gaza Strip. And of course, that's part of Israel. Now, the corridor there was basically in 2005 or so when the freedom was given to Gaza, their own independence. Egypt was supposed to guard it so there wouldn't be any smuggling tunnels going in and out. And actually, hundreds of tunnels were found. And when Israel got there this time in Rafah, after getting to the border, they found all kinds of tunnels, very sophisticated ones, tunnels that were large enough you could drive a car through. And this is where all the weapons were being smuggled from, not only in the trucks overland, but also in the tunnels. There would be weapons that were smuggled, iron, steel, and that to build, the tunnels there to build up weapons, all kinds of things. Money, people were smuggled back and forth. It was a tremendous, thing they were doing. And again, as we've been talking about, when they've looked at the tunnels in the Gaza Strip, they're very, very sophisticated, very, very well done. Took a lot of time to do it, a lot of effort, and literally millions and millions of dollars worth of materials were sent there. So Netanyahu says there's no way on earth we're going to let that in the hands of anybody else. Now, we had a story about a week or so ago that Egypt and the Palestinian Authority were talking. They agreed that the Palestinian Authority could take control of that. Well, fat chance of that. There was another interesting story came out of a couple of days ago that it gave the 20-year history of the whole Philadelphia corridor there, and when it was turned over to Egypt, and basically Egypt was supposed to guard it, and then when Gaza was given their independence, they were, not supposed to smuggle anything, and of course everything was underground, so who would know? Well, anyway, Egypt had really dropped the ball there, so. Israel doesn't want to see a repeat of October 7th, so they're going to make sure. Now, that's what Israel is saying. But remember, tomorrow Joe Biden is going to give a take it or leave it proposal to both Hamas and Israel. And he is, let's just hope he's just not intransigent here and just says, no, you've got to turn it over to so-and-so, to Egypt or Palestinian Authority or some nonsense like that. That they might as well, just hand the whole thing over to him because it'll all start over again. So we'll see what happens. But I like the New York Post editorial, and that's where we're at now. And headline number 2, Israel should finish off Hamas and resist the Biden-Harris demands for concession to terrorists. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's planned Mideast trip will mean more pressure on Israel to make concessions to Hamas. Yet Jerusalem's best course is to push on and finish off the terrorists. The IDF has made significant progress, and Israel mustn't agree to anything that could jeopardize victory. Amen to that. At this point, Hamas's central goal is simply to hang on long enough for Kamala Harris to win in November and then save it from final eradication. That's what they're expecting. Iran is helping out. Its officials now claim Tehran will shelve plans to retaliate against Israel for killing Hamas boss Ismail Haniyeh. Here's the big if Israel engages in good faith ceasefire talks. All right. Meanwhile, Hamas's boss Yahya Sinwar is reportedly demanding Israel ceasefire now as a precondition for ceasefire talks, which would give him immediate breathing room and let him stretch out the talks for months. In fact, Iran actually wants this is important, I like this, wants an excuse to hold off. It fears losing face, but if it doesn't respond to the killing of Haniyeh in Tehran, but its last strike at Israel was an embarrassing bust. And so they're going to say, well, we do need to respond, but if Israel, knuckles under and gives up some of the things we've been demanding, then Hamas is demanding that we'll let it slide. And so we'll see what happens. It's going to be real interesting tomorrow when we get the unveiling of Joe's, well, somebody wrote it for him. Obviously, he didn't do it, but this final ceasefire agreement that he thinks both sides should accept right away. And that we will see. Now, this third headline is something we have talked about for years and years. And now it's finally hitting the headlines. Iran is advancing research on nuclear bomb detonators, a nuclear expert tells the Post. For years, U.S. intelligence agencies have maintained that Iran was not engaged in the key activities necessary to develop a testable nuclear device. Very large amounts of here's the problem though. Very large amounts of Iranian academic research have been refocused now to advancing issues relevant to the nuclear bomb detonation. The Institute for Science and International Security President David Albright told the Jerusalem Post today, Wednesday. He said this is potentially a radical paradigm shift and how close a real Iran nuclear weapons threat could become. Given that until now, defense officials and analysts have said that no matter how far along they were in enriching uranium to weapons grade, there would be time to stop it from getting the bomb, seeing that it had not yet mastered key weapons groups' activities. And Albright is not alone in sounding this alarm. Recently, an IDF spokesman warned the Knesset Foreign Affairs and the Defense Committee of increased signs that Iran's Iranian nuclear weaponization. Further, the U.S.'s annual intelligence estimate in July carried similar implied warnings. The IAEA, that's the International Association Energy International, I can't remember the MIS, it's the International Energy Association there. It's the ones that do all the checking out and investigating, which they never get to do because Iran blocks them. The International Atomic Energy Association, that's what it is, okay. They have also repeatedly said it is blind and concerned about Iranian weaponization. Yeah, it's blind because they won't let them in to look at it. So as for Tehran itself, Iran just reported on Wednesday from 3 Iranian sources that they've confirmed progress concerning nuclear armament and detonation issues because like they said, there's a number of components there. You have to have the delivery system. They've been working on those since 2015 because Barack Obama and John Kerry, who once served in Vietnam, did not have the foresight to stop their missile program. So they've got the delivery system now. They're working on that where they could deliver the bomb. And they've been working on the enriching uranium. And now it's not only enriching uranium to weapons grade, but it's also doing the detonation. It's very complicated. I was reading the article, what has to be done. But they have all these scientific papers in the educational field that people are putting out, Iranians are putting out. They're very sophisticated, very good, we're told. But it's, they're saying, well, this is for, medical research or this or that. But actually, it's towards building a bomb. So this is something that, we've got to keep an eye on. This is another reason why Israel must sooner rather than later do what they can to eradicate any nuclear program they have. All right, so multiple top defense officials have also expressed concern to the Post about this new Iranian nuclear weaponization progress, intimating that could be new clandestine efforts against Tehran's recent violations. You think so? Of course they're doing it clandestine. Of course they're working on this because their goal, they've said this for years, they believe they're divinely inspired by Allah to basically destroy the little Satan, Israel, and the big Satan, the U.S. And when that happens, Islamic rule will, take over the world. This is Shia Islam. That's their last days belief system. And they don't have a problem. They said if 18 million of their people died in some type of nuclear blast too, so what? We're going to, Islam will rule the world. So they're guided again. You can't bribe them. They're not guided, not any monetary things that will change their mind. Well, because they believe they're supernaturally guided, well, they are by demonic forces to try and build a nuclear weapon and to, basically destroy civilization so Islam can rule the world. So again, we'll keep an eye on that story. But I've been waiting for that one to come across because the whole stories over the years is how close the uranium is getting enriched to weapons grade, because you have to do that first. But then you have to have the components to build the bomb. And it's very technical, we're told, to do that, but it can be done. And they've had some really sharp people working on it. All right, right on cue. Number 4, World Health Organization declares Mpox outbreak in Africa is a global health emergency. WHO director accepts recommendation from the committee. The World Health Organization on August 14th, that's today, declared the outbreak of Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, in Africa. They've declared it a public health emergency of international concern because of the increase in cases and deaths in recent months. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, I guess I never get the last name right. We just call him Tedros. The Director General of the United Nations WHO announced the declaration in Geneva, accepting a recommendation from the WHO's Emergency Committee. Tedros said there's already been about 14,000 reported cases and 524 reported deaths in Africa this year, a jump from last year. He also pointed to the emergence of a new Mpox strain, or clade, C-L-A-D-E, which he described as worrying. In addition to the other outbreaks of other clades of Mpox in other parts of Africa, it's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives, Tedros said at a briefing. Mpox is a virus that occurs in animals and humans. It can spread between people and cause an illness that typically manifests itself with a rash and resolves in a few weeks. But some cases can lead to death. Well, here's the key. Mpox has predominantly affected men who have sex with other men. I'll just leave that alone. A public health emergency of international concern or global health emergency is the highest level of alarm that the WHO can convey. It's declared for extraordinary events deemed to constitute a public health risk to countries through the international spread of disease. The Chinese Communist coronavirus, remember that? It was declared a public health concern in 2020. That declaration ended in 2023 after the number of cases of it dropped considerably. The WHO declared Mpox a public health emergency of international concern in 2022, but ended the declaration in May of 2023. He said countries had curbed the Mpox outbreak, which was caused by a strain known as clade 2B, but now again they've declared a new public emergency. And we hear this: today I commit to you, the African citizens, that we will lead this fight with every resource at our disposal. That's Jean Cassia, the head of the agency, said at a briefing. He said Africa was working on securing more vaccines, as it has only about 200,000 doses at this time, but estimates it will need more than 10 million. All right, interesting. Well, we're going to have another world health problem here right before an election. Well, surprise, surprise. Anyway, we'll see. We'll follow that story and see how that happens. Okay. Now, this last story, I don't know if you've heard this or not. It hasn't got a lot of airplay, but there are no words. There really aren't. Here's the headline. A 61-year-old man in the UK was jailed for 18 months for chanting, "Who the F is Allah?" or Allah. He also told police officers, "You're not English anymore," during a protest outside Downing Street. The sentence handed down to David Spring is the latest shocking example of how low the bar has now been set in terms of free speech in response to rioting that occurred after the murder of 3 girls in Southport last month. Spring attended a demonstration of around 700 people in London on July 31st, which turned disorderly. Police body cam footage was played in court showing Spring calling police officers the C word, making hostile gestures, and joining in with chants of "Who the F is Allah?" and "You're not English anymore." While Spring's behavior could be described as offensive, which it was, terribly offensive and unruly, the fact that he will spend the next year and a half behind bars for saying mean words exemplifies how the UK has slipped to an extreme authoritarianism in the space of just 2 weeks. What's happened in these 2 weeks? The Labor government took over. That's what's happened. And we warned about things like this. So here we go. Censorship extraordinaire. Okay, when he was arrested, Spring told police, I didn't go up to London to riot. I went to complain about people put up in hotels, referring to illegal immigrants staying in hotels at taxpayers' expense. Defending lawyer Piers Kiss Wilson said, the defendant asked me to put forward his apologies to the court, and he says he is embarrassed by his behavior and he is ashamed by it. He also wants to apologize to his family and friends and his wife who don't deserve this. The man's wife, who suffers from ill health, will now be deprived of her primary care thanks to Spring's imprisonment and the Keir Starmer government. And this is a post that someone put. It says it all. Two headlines, two legal judgments, two-tier country. This is the United Kingdom. Listen to the two headlines. All charges of convoy of those who shouted rape Jewish daughters are dropped. A Sutton man who shouted, who the F is Allah, is jailed for 18 months. That's it. Even so come Lord Jesus, right? What a world. All right. We're going to keep our eyes, tomorrow to be the big story in the morning. We should know something by the time we get to you early morning at breaking news that at least something of the substance of the Joe Biden that he's going to unveil the final, draft. This is going to be it where both sides must sign ceasefire. The ceasefire, of course, will stop Iran from attacking Israel. Let's stop Hezbollah from attacking. There won't be any regional war, and everybody will live happily ever after. That's kind of the idea with this. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Until tomorrow, thanks again, as always, for watching. I'm Don Stewart. And don't forget again to take advantage of our resources on our website, Educating Our World. Again, 65 books in PDF form, 12 on Bible prophecy, including 25 signs. We're near the end. It lays it all out, what the Bible said is going to happen at the time of the end, because all the stories we do have something to do with what the Scripture says, what our world's going to be like in the last days. And as these stories we've seen today, again, setting the stage for the crazy world that's here and it's coming even worse. All right, until next time, may the Lord richly, richly bless.